Hello friends, I'm the Dyslexic Cosplayer, and it's time we take a look at Blake 7. Today, episode 23, Voice from the Past. And the opening is a doozy. The Liberator's crew is utterly stressed out, and instead of going to Horizon, they are engaging in space yoga. No, seriously, they're all trying to do various yoga poses. Why, yes, the show was written in the late 70s by a bunch of sci-fi hippies. How could you tell? But in the middle of all of the yoga, Blake seems to be hearing some weird sounds and storms off in a huff. These exercises, Callie, do not seem to improve the temper. I don't know, it's doing wonders for my mood. However, Blake decides to randomly alter course without conferring with the rest of the crew. And right when they were planning on heading for the planet Del 10. Blake, I've just been checking on Del 10. It's an ultra planet, fascinating scenery, and the gravity's so low you can practically fly. Switch to manuals. Confirmed. It's also the galaxy's richest known source of beta particles. It's practically paradise. Villa, beta particles are radioactive. Now, they're not deadly per se, and can be stopped by a thin aluminum sheet, but can still cause mutations in organic tissue. The only two things that I can find that they're technically perfect for and that humans use regularly is for quality control testing and as part of treating bone cancer. So I'm a little concerned if your idea of a perfect planet involves treating your rampant, hitherto unmentioned bone cancer. But the new course set by Blake is for some random asteroid, which the rest of the crew is not terribly thrilled by. What about Del 10?
What about the beta particles? I wanted to work on my Total Recall cosplay. No, not that one. Yeah, that one.
A situation that doesn't get any better when it is revealed that the asteroid has no strategic value, has no major installations. In fact, it's basically an abandoned mining asteroid in the middle of nowhere. You've always explained, given us reasons. When you had any. This time I choose not to.
But Blake!
Just try trusting me for once. Blake, the last time you told them to just take you on faith, you got one of them killed. I think they're well reasoned for not wanting to trust you. After spending about 7 minutes on a plot point, which probably could have been handled in maybe 3, we find out that what's happening is Blake, during his time in incarceration, was given hypno-suggestive therapy sessions. The weird tone sounds that he's been hearing puts him in a hypnotically suggestive position, allowing someone else to control him from a distance. With the help of Jenna, they try and break the mental conditioning on Blake, which doesn't actually work. And they re-alter course as they put Blake in a restraining wheelchair and plan on continuing to try and break his psycho-conditioning. But during a brief aside with Villa, Blake is able to use weaponized shipping against him. You know what's happening, don't you? Happening? Avon and Callie. What about them? Paired up. Mutual affinities. You mean? Oh, it's been going on for some time now. I didn't realize it had gone as far as this. What? But with the threat of becoming Gilligan from Gilligan's Island, and the implication that Avon's using the opportunity to take over the ship, Villa is willing to help out Blake take control of the ship, helping him lock all the rest in the cargo hold and then steering the ship for the asteroid, before Blake teleports down. Only after losing touch with him does Villa realize that maybe this was a bad plan, and he was working from selfish motivations. As Blake begins to explore the old mining complex, he finds out that the lights are still on and that the power still works. Oh, and there's a bunch of people down here with guns. Fortunately, they were expecting Blake, and they're apparently friends of his. And then we get, well, this.
Easy come.
What? What is this? I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but was this the best makeup that we could come up with? I mean, he looks like a crash test dummy. This is just so bad.
Why you wearing a mask? Were you going to acid or something like that?
This is Shivan, an ally of Blake's from his resistance days who was nearly fatally killed in an ambush. Easily recognized by his Medal of Liberty, which really just looks like a pink disc, but anyway. His companion is Ven Glynn, former chief prosecutor of the Federation. It was he and his allies that used the psycho-conditioning that Blake had been given to lure him to this place. Back up on the Liberator, Villa has finally come to his senses and helped get Avon and Jenna out of their cell as they prepare to go investigate where Blake's at. I love the fact that Avon knows what to expect. So it turns out Ven Glynn has managed to get his hands on documents that prove some of Servalon's shady stuff that she's been up to throughout the series, like trying to steal Aurak. His plan is to reveal all the documents at a council meeting for the various governors of the Federation so that they can collectively overturn Servalan and arrest her and her allies. I don't know how he thinks this is going to actually work, but... Meanwhile, over on Star 1, Servalan gets a call from Legrand, one of the governors that is friends with Ven Glynn. She's actually calling about the security for the meeting where Ven Glynn intends to make his declarations. And I can't really play too much of this because of copyright reasons, but the dialogue between these two characters is so deliciously sarcastic while being politely insulting. It's just magnificent. The only dialogue really worth mentioning is mostly about the fact that Siobhan is still alive, and that Servalon has some concerns about him interrupting the meeting. Also, in a cute bit of continuity, I like the fact they reused the flower from Weapon that was left for her by Carnell. Back up on the Liberator, Avon and Callie can clearly recognize that Blake is still being mind-controlled, and are trying to figure out how exactly. Well, it turns out the people of Aron tried to figure out how to make a device that would allow them to locate ships by detecting the minds of the people aboard rather than the ship itself. So it's entirely possible that the Federation got a hold of this technology and has retrofitted it to work as a way to directly influence Blake once he's in a hypnotically suggestible state. That would inevitably require a lot of energy from a distance, but now that Blake has managed to get a bunch of people onto the ship, one of which is probably helping with this plan, could easily have some sort of device on board the ship allowing them to manipulate him more easily.
So what's the plan?
Locate and destroy it.
And restore Blake to his senses.
The two don't necessarily follow. Back over on the bridge of the Liberator, it seems that Siobhan isn't nearly as into this plan as he seems at first, and recognizes that Ven Glynn is using both him and Blake as part of a ploy to try and take over the Federation himself.
You think I'm so old and enfeebled as to forget the rules of the game? You still need me, brother.
What the hell was that?
My thoughts exactly. What direction did you have to give to get that performance? But anyway, Villa's teleported down to the planet to bring up the governor to meet with Blake, who seems thoroughly supportive of his cause, and to meet with Siobhan. And to announce that she's forming a triumvirate with Siobhan herself and Blake. Remind me again how that worked out for both of the Roman triumvirates? In a nice little bit of continuity, Aurak says that he can disable the device that's allowing them to control Blake, however he has special programming against interacting with anything psychically, relating back to Shadow. But if they bring him the device directly, he can interact with it mechanically. Meanwhile, the Triumvirate and their puppet master are preparing to beam down to the planet, only for Avon to show up and demand that they hand over the device that's allowing them to control Blake. Ven Glynn insists that it's just a device that allowed them to gain control of the Liberator's computer to guide them to the asteroid. So they have no need of it any further, but not to tamper with it since there's a chance it could mess up the Liberator. And in a brief aside, I find it adorable that it looks just like an iPhone. Aurak vehemently insists that the device could not possibly mess with their systems because that's not what it's designed to do. However, Blake then decides to turn him off to protect Aurak, taking the key with him down to the planet. And Siobhan decides to stay behind since he is too weak to go down. While everybody gets settled for the conference down on the planet's surface, Jenna and Avon find out that this has all been one long elaborate trap, as the governor's bodyguard has been assassinated, and the assassin turns out to be... Dun dun dun! What? So yeah, Servalon had found out about Legrand and Ven's plan to take over the Federation, and has been setting this up for a while. And apparently recruited Travis to pretend to be Shivan so that they could infiltrate the conspiracy from the inside. I'd just like to remind everybody it's only been 2 episodes since Booby Trap, so I'm not 100% sure how this whole timeline works out, but okay. And it becomes evident that yes, Travis is telling the truth as Legrand finds out there's no one at the conference hall, and that Servalon is smart enough to know the cliches and made an evil villain monologue video ahead of the conference so she could focus on her plans. Even getting the lighting down right so she can look at the stormtroopers as they reveal themselves from the shadows. That's commitment to the bit. In typical stormtrooper fashion, the guards start gunning down everyone, including Legrand, then Glynn managing to escape with only a flesh wound. With the blast in the boots of the stormtroopers coming ever closer, they and Blake's crew fortify themselves in the lobby, while Blake starts having a massive headache as the frequency that's been used to mind control him is now being used to incapacitate him. In a clever job avoiding a plot hole, Travis orders them not to touch the coordinates the teleporter's been set to, and to put him down with Blake and the rest of his crew. Nicely avoiding that little trick that they've used twice now to just blow up people by teleporting them into the middle of space. The situation down on the planet's gotten worse, as the device has been used to make Blake take off his bracelet so he can't be teleported back up, even once Travis arrives. In a nice bit of character development, Jenna removes her own bracelet so that she can stay to help Blake even as they're being teleported to safety. And in a moment of desperation, Ven Glim attempts to strangle Travis for revenge, thus preventing him from being able to kill Blake, while he's still incapacitated.
But do something!
And weirdly enough, that actually works! Jenna reattaches their bracelets just before Ven Glynn is shot by Travis, and they're all teleported back up to the ship, leaving Travis to try and fend off a group of stormtroopers who are all under orders to kill him still, and it turns out that Blake is back to normal and is still just as obsessed with Star 1 as he was before the start of the episode. Episode over. So my memory of episodes after Booby Trap is limited because I didn't grow up watching them. Thus, when I went to rewatch the series for these reviews, I completely forgot the episode even happened. Now, that's probably because the episode features a lot of stuff that doesn't really make sense, and only drives the plot by the fact that Blake isn't really acting of his own volition. He had to be mind-controlled for any of this to make sense. Blake manipulating his crew for his own evil purposes because he knows them so well was well done and interesting, but we've previously established that mind control doesn't work on him because he overcame the conditioning he had previously. So how is it now working on him again? I just don't get this. The plot twist with Travis being Joban doesn't work. The only reason it's a surprise is it's not foreshadowed anywhere in the episode. The closest you get is the fact you can't see his left hand ever, but that really isn't enough of a tell to make the surprise interesting. I want to be clear, I'm not attempting to make fun of Brian Croucher as a person. I'm sure he's a wonderful man and a great actor. But in this particular role, it is telling the only way to convincingly disguise Travis was to bury him under so much makeup and prosthetics that he couldn't act. Since Travis is so over the top and Brian Croucher seemed to have only one mode in the 70s. And just to be clear that I'm not mad at him just because he replaced the original Travis, this is the same complaint I have about Matt Smith, since in an episode where the Doctor's being taken over by a cyborg implant, all the while trying to fight it off, the only way to tell which one is in control was with camera tricks, because Matt Smith couldn't deliver a good enough performance to make that clear. And now that I've managed to alienate everybody whose first Doctor was Matt Smith, I think it's probably time we head on to the next episode. What can you expect? Well...
Speed chess!
That is Doppler's case he's carrying.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, weirdly enough, that pretty much sums it up. I hope to see you all for episode 24 of this series, Gambit. Until next time, friends, sign-ups are hard. Hello, friends. I hope you're all enjoying Blake 7 as much as I am making the reviews of it. If you want to show your support for the series, check out their YouTube page, link in the description. And if you want to show support for this series, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I'm also doing other reviews all the time, and new series are always coming. And if you enjoy those, I have some original content that I'm creating, as well as a bunch of stuff over on my Patreon. Links for that and my Facebook page can be found in the description below. And now some special thanks for my patrons on Patreon. Drawn by Kenna, Jen Goodnight, Lucy Westera, Norm DePlume. Thank you all so much for your contributions and for making all of this possible.